What's going on, everybody? Sean Daniel here with Guitar Control, and today we're going to talk a little bit about some fingerstyle techniques that you can use to kind of make a little bit of separation between your chords as far as like maybe moving bass notes and then getting the rest of the chord with a different kind of attack and a different kind of feel. So make sure to click the link below because I'm going to tab out everything we're doing here. We're just going to use some really simple open chords and talk really a lot about the technique of making it sound a little bit separated to get kind of like a cool vibe and a cool groove going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just play a regular C major chord, open C major, but we're not using a pick because this is really going to be just kind of like a way to maybe see a little bit differently instead of just, you know, maybe some basic 2-finger patterns. We're actually going to use 3 fingers and a thumb, okay? So what we're going to do in this specific way that we're going to be talking about today is your thumb is just going to be responsible for the low E and the A strings, okay? Now your pointer finger, your middle finger, and your ring finger are going to be responsible for the D, G, and B strings, all right? Now what I want you to do is try to take those 3 fingers and then curl them under the D, G, and B strings. See how right here, if you look at my right hand, or my picking hand, my thumb is gonna be up front, almost kind of like a bicycle brake type deal. So the reason that we're doing this is because when you pull up on those strings as a set, and again, this is just an open string set right now, I'm not even fretting anything with my left hand. When you pull up, you can come straight back down into the same spot. And you want that repetition so you're not always kind of like searching and hunting and pecking for the different strings and getting kind of confused, okay? Some different fingerstyle techniques will have your thumb responsible for the E, A, and D strings and your fingers down here. This one right here is gonna be kind of like a contemporary guitar way to play because a lot of times when you're learning chord voicings, you're rooted on either the E or the A string. Not that you can't do them on the D string or G string or anything like that, but this alternating pattern is going to be really reliant on your thumb jumping back between the A and the E string, and again, these fingers just hitting those 3 strings to kind of grab the chord, all right? So when we do this over a C major chord, you can strike the root of the chord, the 3rd fret on the A string, which is a C, A sharp, B, C, to kind of lead that chord off. So we're hitting just the root note, we're announcing the arrival of a C major chord, all right? And now your fingers are just gonna grab the rest of it. So we have a little bit of a separation. Instead of just one strum, we have the root and then the chord. And you see how that's different from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Totally different sound, same chord. So this is kind of a way to maybe play some of the same chords, some of the same progressions that you've been playing, but in a different way to totally kind of change up the vibe of what we have going on here. Now, one really cool thing about guitar is when you're rooting chords on the A string or the E string, specifically like let's use the C major chord as an example. 3rd fret of the A string. The 3rd fret of the string below it, the E string, is going to be another note in that chord, okay? So again, this is a C major chord. The notes that make up a C major chord are C, E, and G. When you take our root note, which is also our bass note right here, and move this a string lower, that's grabbing a G, which again is another note in that chord, so it's always going to be fair game. So now, you can have your ring finger kind of pull double duty, going back and forth. Meanwhile, your thumb is just going back and forth with it, right? So this is kind of like a moving bass line, a very simple moving bass line for sure, but it does count. Now, if you want to, you can actually anchor with your pinky and your ring finger, like that. But, you know, whatever. Either way, if you want that movement, the nice thing about using your ring finger for both is when you leave it, it stops the sound of it deadens that string. So it's not sustained, and it kind of gets a little bit more of a separation between them, which is kind of like a peppy, poppier way to maybe play something. Again, these are just different techniques to play the exact same chords that you already know and love, all right? So now, back and forth between these root notes, we're gonna add the chord. A string, E string, A string, E string, okay? So this is a very simple back and forth way if you wanna do it with your ring finger or your pinky and your ring finger. And it kinda has a different kind of vibe than just... Now one thing you notice, when I do that, with the chord, with the D, G, and B, with my fingers, I'm using my left hand to deaden that sound after I hit it. 1 and 2 and. So again, there's that kind of poppy, peppy sound that we're getting. You can sustain it by leaving. But I kind of think that's a little bit of a busier sound. You're not getting really the effect of that kind of separation, moving in between. So now let's add another chord to this pattern. And let's do the easiest one to go from here is if your ring finger just grabs the 2nd fret on the G string. Now we've got an A minor chord. And just like before, we can go from the root note, which is a bass note also, the open A, we can go to the E. And again, it's always a 5th away, A, B, C, D, E. Just like in C, we went from a C to a G, C, D, E, F, G, okay? So A minor with the E in the bass, A minor, E bass, C with a G in the bass, C to G, A minor, E, A minor, E. Now the more that you get comfortable switching up your thumb and your fingers, now we can start adding maybe kind of different rhythms to it. So one thing that's maybe kind of like a little Latin bossa nova-y-ish rhythm is like this. Basically same concept, but we're just doing a little bit different vibe here. Now I'm going A, chord. So by the time I get to that 2nd bass note, rooted on the E string, I'm hitting that twice. So A, chord, E, E, chord, and then I'm using my fingers coming up off of the strings, coming straight down to get a little bit of a click sound, right? So we're kind of adding a percussive flavor to this. And again, this is just one example of really an infinite amount of variations you can make on this, but learning to separate your thumb from your fingers in this kind of fingerstyle pattern way is a really valuable thing that you can do. And then like once you get it down, then it's just all on you and your own creativity for how you want to play it. But again, so this bossa nova type inspired rhythm, A, chord, E, E, chord, hit. A, chord, E, E, chord, hit. Really slow. If you want to count it, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and to A minor, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You notice on the back end, the 4th beat of that, I kind of mute that 4th beat and the end of 4 is open. So maybe that could be like something that you want to incorporate, maybe add a little bit of a busier kind of arrangement to the back end of that bar, do something on the end of 4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so I'm going to hit that chord again on the end of 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, really mix and match. Once you see the musical counting behind this and then get the technique of it down, there's really whatever variations you want to do. If you want more of a percussive vibe, add 2 hits on the end of 4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Really, there's no limit to what you want to do, but being able to see it, hear it, count it is super important. Now, I want to do something that is also not solely reliant upon these open chords. So let's do the same root note chord on a C, but we're going to do a different chord voice. We're going to do a C major 7, okay? So the way that this works out is going to be the 3rd fret on the A string, which we have already determined is a C root note. Ring finger is going to be the 5th fret on the D string. Middle finger is going to be the 4th fret on the G string, and your pinky is going to be the 5th fret on the B string. Now, we don't have to worry so much about bar chords. If you looked at this as a bar chord voicing, we'd have to compensate for the high E string. The nice thing about this kind of hand position we're in, we're really kind of just ignoring the high E string in general. This is also an excellent technique for if you just don't have a high E string, if it's broken and you don't want to change it because you're lazy, which you should probably look into, but that's another point. So if we have this 4-note chord, middle 4 strings, we can do the same thing. Root, chord, root, chord, hit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and however you want to do it. That same thing applies with going up and down a string as an alternating bass line. So we can just go from the 3rd fret on the A string to the 3rd fret on the E string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now since we're not using any open strings to help us, we can move this down 2 frets. This is a D major 7. 1 fret higher, D sharp or E flat. This is actually a good warm-up to kind of maybe explore further down the neck, just moving one up at a time. So really the point of it isn't just necessarily doing these chords, but just kind of seeing how this is kind of like an important way to maybe get the essence of what a chord is and use them in progressions that you already know, but kind of make it a totally different vibe just by separating the root note or the bass note from the chord and then just kind of having at it. So definitely, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments. So if you want to see more of maybe other fingerstyle type things or songs that you have in your requests of what you want to learn. And definitely check out some of these other videos around here by myself, other great instructors on the Guitar Control channel. And again, I can't stress, feedback is important. Whatever you guys want to see, let us know and we'll get right on it. Thanks a lot.